We're going to call this work session to order at 6:03. Welcome, everyone. It's Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. We're going to have
this is that posted
roll
agenda.
call. Alda Benavides, present.
Roberto Zamora, present.
Mary Hernandez, present.
Dr. Science, this completes our Facilities Committee. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I understand there's no public comments, so we'll move to item number 5, which is Operations Department. And the first item on the agenda is update on elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund number 2, campus canopy project.
Good evening, Dr. Benavides, members of the board, Dr. Science, everyone present, and the community. I'd like to direct you to tab number 2 on the binder, the white binder. So on tab number 2, we're going to go over the ESSER Campus Canopy Project. If you recall, we do have 3 phases that were part of this project. Each phase was done by a different engineer. So for phase 1, we're going to start on phase 1. Engineer was M2 Engineering. Budgeted amount for this project was $1,260,000. And on this particular phase, we did go out for bids, and we received a bid, and we have the bid came in at $1,618,424.40. We are in the process of getting a best and final and bringing it to for board consideration on the next scheduled board meeting, which is part of the summary that you see there. So bid proposals were for the canopy structural project phase 1 were received and opened on July 13th. The school board of trustees approved it to negotiate with Reno Works Facility Solutions LLC at the regular scheduled board meeting of August 10th, 2022. Negotiations with Reno Works Facility Solutions were held Friday, August 12th. An agenda item with the best and final offer will be submitted for board consideration on August 31st, 2022. This project is anticipated to take 5 to 6 months for substantial completion depending on material availability. And I went ahead and listed the schools that are part of phase 1 right below that.
Mr. Villarreal,
Yes.
am I correct that this particular that all the canopies, there were certain specifications for the canopies, and the columns are different for the different sets of canopies? And I just want to communicate that we are depending on you all to make sure that we get exactly what we're asking for, because then at the end we're going to be the ones that are going to be asked questions that how come these schools have a different canopy as opposed to what was specified.
Yes.
I'm not 100% certain that that is correct because I haven't seen the specs, but I know that this was brought to my attention, and we have no way of knowing that. When we approved this on August 10th, we had no way of knowing that it was different from what the specs called. And so now we're the ones that are going to have to answer that. So I just want to communicate as carefully as I can with you all that we're depending on you all to check those specs and to make sure that it's exactly what we asked for. Because now we have, how many schools you said listed? I'm not going to count them. There's 3, 4,
There's
5,
13.
13
13 schools.
that are going to have a slightly different canopy. And we're going to be asked why.
Mhm.
And
I wanna know
it's
why.
going to be too late.
Yeah, so
At that time, it's going to be too late. And I wish I had known this prior to the August 10th meeting. I would have, postponed the item, but I wasn't aware. But this is where I'm communicating to you and Mr. Villarreal. We're depending on you guys. And we want to be able to trust that what you're bringing to us matches exactly what is on the specifications. So I understand that all 3 are different. And we're going to have to answer a lot of questions to our community, and I don't think that that's fair to us.
okay, to answer that, Dr. Benavides, Phase 2 and Phase 3, they are exactly the same. So all those 13 schools that are part of Phase 2 and 12 schools that are part of Phase 3 are exactly the same.
Well, maybe because they were rebid, because we send them back to be redone. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been.
Right.
But
So-
we rejected the bid. That's the reason why they're going to be exactly the same. But because when we had that other bid where only one person had bid, they weren't the same.
Yeah. And on Phase 1, to answer your question on the columns, that is something that we're negotiating. That's part of the negotiations that we're having with Reno Works, is to change those columns from squared to round.
But if
which
we
was-
already got a 1.6 fee and now we're making more changes, it'll be 2 point something.
No, we're working on it so that it can be within the same amount.
So what exactly happened there? I mean, not all 3 engineers worked on the same specs, or how did we manage to get it differently?
So we tried to set up meetings at the same time, but given they had prior commitments, there was times that they couldn't meet all at the same time. So there was probably some miscommunication as to what exactly we were looking for. But we did tell them the specs that we're looking for, which was round columns was the number 1. The type of roof, that was number 2. And then the rest, of course, has to do with structural, like the concrete and all that. But the main design, which was the columns and the roof, that information was relayed to all 3. I wish we could have been all together at the same time in one room so that everybody can get the same exact information. But I think what happened there was some miscommunication somewhere there, which is why Phase 1 had that issue with the
And I think
columns.
that at that time, it would have been fair to us for you to have told us, just to let you know, these were the specs, and this is what you're approving, and it's slightly different, just so that we would know and our community knows, because we want to be as transparent with our community, and we don't want to be accused of favoring some schools and not others. And that's the kind of thing we're trying to get away from, and we're being put in this situation, and they are going to be different.
Is it on the gauge, or what is it exactly that the difference is at?
On the columns, for Phase 1, they had spec'd out squared columns,
Okay?
as opposed to Phase 2 and 3, they're going to be round.
And how about the roof?
The roof, it's going to be a gable roof for Phase 1, as opposed to 2 and 3 is going to be a hip type roof. So it just has a little bit more angle on the roof than the gable roof.
It's different.
So pretty much it's the design, it's not the gauge of the
No, it's
metal.
not the material. It's just once you see them next to each other, they will look a little different. Yeah.
But is the material, what is the comparison between the material, the actual material that's used?
It's the same type of material.
It's
It's
just a
steel.
different
So it's a different
galvanized.
design.
It's just the design,
It's
but
galvanized steel. The roof is our panel.
No, the
It's the
steel is not the problem. It's just a different
It's
design.
just a design, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have to make sure that if they did a 25 gauge or whatever type of gauge they did, it's all across, because it's not fair to do a lower one, and get the bid. So we have to really look into that too, because of course the thickness has a lot to do with it. So those kind of, specifics, we need to be very careful on, because it does make a big difference, especially the way the steel is right now.
Well, and in addition to that, this is federal money. We've never gotten SR monies, but they're going to be looking at us very carefully as how we spend it. And we committed to a certain thing, and we're doing something a little different. And it's not on paper that we're doing it different. It's just, that's what was given to us. So I'm really concerned about that, and I wanted to voice that.
Okay.
Well, just, is it different? Are we seeing different specs for within the first phase schools, or between phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3?
Between phase 1,
Between
phase
the
2, and phase
phases.
3.
Okay, so what I'm thinking as you're speaking is that you already had what it was expected from them in terms of what you wanted to have them do, correct?
Yes.
So whether they were there together or at different times, what would have been communicated to them would have been the same thing.
Yes.
So, I mean, them not being there at the same time would have not been the reason why it's different.
Yeah, so there was a lot of dialogue when we were there with the other two engineers as far as going back and forth on the design and how it was going to look.
And who influenced the changes? Was it our district, or was it the engineers that influenced that?
It was just, comments from them, comments from input from both parties that made the ultimate design, I guess, decision of how it was going to look. But the main thing, like I said, is not the material, it's just the columns being round as opposed to square, and the roof.
So was it for aesthetic purposes or cost?
It was aesthetics. Aesthetics, and the other thing that we talked about when we went with round columns was just safety. Being round, if a child,
Right.
gets bumped into a column, it's less of a chance to get, to get hurt, which is why we're trying to change phase 1 from square to round columns.
And the other question just has to do with the price, the cost. And
Yes.
so this one, the bid came in and we've awarded it $358,000 over what is budgeted.
Right.
So where do we see ourselves getting those $358,000 from?
Yeah, that's, I wouldn't know how to answer that, but the price increase is mainly, as we all know, the market right now is just, and one of the hardest things to gauge right now is steel, as a matter of fact. Steel is one of the ones that can go up drastically within a week. So it's very hard to get vendors to commit to a certain price, because they know that if we don't give them a contract within 30 days or less, the price can go up.
Right. So cost-wise, we
So,
could,
yeah, we'll just need to evaluate these projects and other projects.
because if we go over here, then something else gives elsewhere.
Something else needs to,
Yeah.
we need to reduce something else in another project.
Thank you.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say is that if maybe JR made a call to see if we can go over what we committed, and because, like I said, I know we're going to be watched carefully because they're federal funds, and we've never gotten this money, and eyes are on La Jolla because we got the most money.
Yeah. Anything else on phase 1? Moving on to phase 2. And phase 2 and phase 3, like I said, they're at the same stage. We are going to receive proposals on Tuesday, September 6, 2022. A pre-proposal conference was held this past Tuesday, yesterday. Once the bids are received, we will evaluate the documentation and submit the ranking and approval to negotiate for board consideration at the next scheduled board meeting after that. Negotiations will be held with the highest ranked bidder. and a best and final offer will be submitted for board consideration. Once contracts have been signed and the engineer issues a notice to proceed, the company can begin with construction. This project is also anticipated to take anywhere from 5 to 6 months, again, depending on material availability. And for phase 2, the budgeted amount is a little less just because there's one less campus on that phase. Any other questions on this item? If not, on tab number 3. This is the update on the baseball and softball complex bleachers.
I'm sorry, sir. I thought that you were not there yet.
Oh.
But then to go back to phase 2 and phase 3, just to ask a question, because and it's tied to number 3. So and that has to do the situation that we're experiencing or that we've experienced with the bleachers for the baseball field and the softball field. And that's just to say that we've got to put something in place to where if similar things happen to the canopies, that there will be safeguards, warranties, et cetera, to where we don't have to come back and then pay for it.
Right.
And I don't know if that's built into the specs and to everything else that we do.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we usually put under the terms and conditions of each contract, we have warranties, we have, different verbiage and language that is for the district's advantage.
Thank you.
So for the baseball and softball complex bleachers, the engineer has completed the construction documents for this project. A bid packet was created and was sent out through our purchasing cooperatives on Tuesday, August 9th. Quotes were received on Tuesday, August 16th, with only one bidder responding to the request. Our department will evaluate the documentation and submit for board consideration on August 31st, 2022 board meeting. Once contract is executed, the engineer will issue a notice to proceed by September 9th, 2022, so the company can begin with construction. This project is scheduled to be completed by February of 2023. General scope of work includes installation of new permanent bleachers with press box and a covered canopy at both baseball and softball fields. The baseball and softball fields will have 18-inch seats, integral chairs, and wheelchair accessible spaces. The baseball complex bleachers and seating capacity is 1,168, and the softball bleachers seating capacity will be 687. So I just added there the projected timeline: board approval August 31st, notice to proceed September 9th, and completion date. Budgeted amount was $1.5 million. And the bid that we received that we will be evaluating tomorrow came in at $2,036,761. And I went ahead and added a picture of what it was going to look like on the plans with the seating capacities for both baseball and softball.
Were the plans evaluated to make sure that it's exactly what we asked in the specs?
Yes.
So you've said we've received the bids already, right?
We did, but we only got one quote back.
And this one is 536,000
Over.
what's budgeted. So we're already just in two projects, or in this project's almost $900,000 over budget.
Yes.
And what is the funding source for these bleachers?
These are local funds. This would be purchased through local funds. It's one of the special projects on our budget this year.
Yes.
But we approved it under 1.5.
Yes, in the budget, we put 1.5 for it.
So what special project are we not going to do so that we can do this one?
No, it's $1 million. that we're
Yeah,
looking at.
yeah.
On the canopies, it's the ESSER funds.
Yes.
So we need to look there. In this one, we will go back on our special projects and we will reevaluate.
Yeah, and the bids, like I said, they just came in yesterday, so tomorrow we will be meeting as a committee and going over all the documentation, making sure everything is there before we submit to the board.
Well, I think also we would need to, time is going to be critical because we would need to know what special project we're not going to do, because one thing that we committed was that we were going to stick to the budget that we approved. And so if this is over and it's local, then definitely we need to bring that, Dr. Sines,
Well,
in the
yes, we'll
Finance
look at-
Committee.
We'll look at
see
that and
what we're
we'll,
going to do,
we'll
where
make
we're
some
going to take the money
recommendations.
from. Yeah.
Okay? We'll do that.
And you said we only got one bid, sir?
Only one. We sent it out to three companies and we only got one bid
Is there a
back.
reason? Do you know?
No, I know we made contact with all three. The information was sent to all three. I think even Coach Garza made contact with some of them.
Is it not just opened up to where anybody can apply, or is it just to those that we send it out to?
No, we just sent it out to those three.
Because I would think that they ought to be opened up to
Yeah.
where we
Is there
can
a
get other
reason why
bidders.
only three, only two of the ones we select? I thought it was open to everyone.
Yeah.
I was not aware that you were just saying we're going to select these three and we're going to get them from those three.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the option. Through our purchasing cooperatives, we do have the option to send it to just one or multiple or all.
Well, I would recommend that, I know that there's a time crunch, but considering the bid and that we are only getting one, and that we made a decision of which three to send it to, that maybe there's others out there who have not been contacted that may be interested.
We can do that. But we would have to
I mean,
open it up
That's
again.
up for discussion.
That would be the fair
But
thing to do.
I have seen in other purchases that come through here that say we send out up to 20 or up to 200 and so forth. And for this project of this amount, we're just saying we just need three and we select the three.
That's being very selective.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, the option is there. Really, we could have just sent it to one, but we decided to send it to three.
But you also could have opened it up to
Or
anybody.
you can
Yeah.
open it up, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that it was always going to be open to anyone who wanted
We
to
wouldn't
bid.
select,
But we're not taking action other than making recommendations. to them.
Yes, at this meeting, yes, Mr. Dr. Zamora.
May we ask a question of
Yeah.
of Coach
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Maybe he
Coach
can
Garza,
add-
can you come to the
enlighten us
podium,
on-
please?
What's going on?
How did you decide which three to send it to? That's my question.
As far as which three, I know Southern Bleachers has done some work for us, which is the one that submitted the bid. Just recently, they did some bleachers at Juarez Lincoln High School. I believe it was
Who
last
is
year.
this?
Southern,
I'm not able to hear you now, sir. I don't know if it's a movement from one side to the other.
Southern Bleacher Company, that's the name. And then we sent it, what was the other two?
The question was, how did we decide to send it to those three that we send it to?
Yeah, so again, Southern Bleachers, they have done work for us. There was another company that I know made contact with Coach Garza that they would be able to provide the bleachers for us, but I don't know why they didn't submit a price. Yeah, so that's really the reason why we sent it to those three.
But if it's already February and then they're going to start, so we need to ask. Coach Garza, when does baseball season start?
With this timeline that we're at right now, they would be completing 2 weeks after softball has started on the third week after softball has started, the second week of baseball, if they complete within the 5-6 months that they're talking about, if we start September 1st.
Provided there's no bad weather, provided they get the materials, provided blah, blah, blah.
Yes, ma'am. Initially, and for FYI, I've tried, well, we've set up the first home game for all 6 varsity teams for February 20th. Thinking that we would be completed. That would be the first official game for baseball. That would be the second game for softball, because they start a week different, so that we would have the ribbon cutting of the naming of the facility at that time. So
It wouldn't have been possible to go get 2 different, bid 2 different ones? Because it's 2 different ones, it's the baseball and the softball, right? I mean, to speed it up, because if we let just one vendor take care of it, it's gonna take a lot of time. But if we have 2 different vendors, wouldn't that work a little bit faster?
I mean, we could entertain that idea, but the plans and specs were created as one project. I mean, you could break it up, but then again, I mean, we only got 1 bidder, so.
Yeah, but you only selected 3. So
Right.
if we would go in and select more?
I mean, we could.
Mr. Villarreal,
we could.
the vendors for this type of project, are they specialized vendors? Or
Yeah.
who are these vendors that could potentially?
Yeah, they're
bid?
specialized vendors that work on grandstands, bleachers, press boxes, things of that nature.
But it's based on a list that we have already, right? Because we didn't go out and, I mean, you just picked
Advertise.
3 of them, and we didn't advertise to see if there was other vendors that could bid on it.
Because usually you have it bidded out, see who comes in.
Usually,
Because
what?
big companies come from the outside and take jobs, they take jobs and they relocate for temporary till they get it done. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen when they see a job that a company is interested in, if they're given the opportunity to bid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know at this time how many companies we have on the purchasing cooperatives that specialize in this equipment. But I mean, I can find out.
Could we find out and ask all of them to bid? I mean, I don't know how many we're talking about, but is that a possibility? Of course, giving them a time frame.
Yeah,
That
like
would be part of the request.
For this particular quote, we gave them 1 week to respond.
Okay, so it could be a fast turnaround if we open it up.
If we open it up again to everybody, we can
I'm very confused.
put the same timeline, 1 week.
Yes, but the timeline I was referring to was a completion date,
Es que they're not-
that we could
It-
include a completion date in the request also.
Okay, on the
To be
solicitation.
to be at least February 3rd or sooner.
Right.
Do we not have time requirements for how many days projects have to be advertised? Where it's just not 1 week?
This went through our got reviewed by our purchasing department, so we are compliant with.
So we would be compliant, is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
I think that you all need to work together more. Dr. Sines, you need to be more involved. We need to make sure that we're being transparent, that we're giving people an opportunity, that we're, and then if there isn't, it would be different if we were sitting here and saying, well, it's because we don't have companies that specialize in this. That's the reason why only these people bid. But when we're saying that we chose to give it to only 3, that we,
For 1 week.
for 1 week, then we are imposing, our own, and that doesn't match, when you bid and you bid for 10 days and whatever, there's different regulations for different things. So it just puts us in in a very difficult situation, and then we're also being pressured, and I don't blame the parents because they want the bleachers ready by the time and we knew this.
Yeah.
We knew this. We talked about it in the spring. So this is not new. And so now we're like between a wall and a hard place because if anything we do, we're going to delay it. And as it is, it's already into the third game. So I hope you understand our frustration because then we have to answer to those parents. Parents are already calling us about when are they going to be ready because they don't see things happening.
And we bid out as soon as we received the final sealed plans. We weren't sitting with the plans there. As soon as they were delivered to us, that's when we bid the project out. And the reason why we went with 1 week as well was because of the timeline, the time crunch that we had. That is why.
You said the company was Southern what?
Southern Bleachers.
Southern Bleachers?
Yeah, their name is Southern Bleacher Company, Inc.
How long did it take to do the layout for this bleachers?
The plans? I would have to go back to see when the engineer started. It did take a little longer than what we would wanted, but we did go back and forth as far as seating capacities, the layout and all that, that we kept going back and forth, and the engineer had to go back and make some changes and adjustments. But yeah, it did take longer than.
And that's the thing, those are the kind of things we need to see, especially if we see that it's not working as fast as we need them to work. Okay, we need to be there and telling them, either you want the job or not, because we cannot afford to be doing all this game somewhere else or getting bleachers, and it just overall, we look bad. Okay, so if we gave them a deadline, they should be able to come through. I can't believe that we're taking this long to actually get it done. But I guess that comes, from us putting that pressure on the engineer that we need to keep going. It comes from us that we need to make those calls. And we need to make sure that we get those in a timely manner, and especially that we know we have games going on. And we know that parents are calling and saying, move on, because they pass through there and they see. And we get those calls that what is taking so long. Okay, so we just need to work a little bit harder and push our engineers to get the layouts, get whatever we need fast. Okay?
Just on the specs, are these going to be aluminum bleachers, silver, red? Are they going to match what we've had before?
Yes, they're going to be silver. The chairs, the foldable chairs, those are going to be red, if I'm not mistaken.
So are the chairs the only thing that's going to be red?
I think it's a
So
chair.
it's really not matching what we had before.
It's the chairs and the steel.
And from what I hear now, this is not part of this project, but will impact also this project, and that is the canopies. And what experiences are we having that those two may need to be replaced? And if that is the case, how will that affect all this?
That the canopies might be replaced,
That,
might need to be
that there may
replaced?
be some also damage there that they may need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
They are getting replaced.
The
They are being
canopies-
replaced, or they will be, are they being replaced with this project?
Yes. Yeah, it's part of the bid.
Okay, because that's not in here.
No.
Yes, it's there.
Is it that
Where?
time? I thought we were going to look into it.
It does say the scope of work includes installation of new permanent bleachers with press box and covered canopy at both baseball and softball fields. So the whole canopy is going to be redone,
Yes.
if I'm reading this correctly?
Okay.
Yes.
The baseball and softball fields will have 18-inch seats, intercal chairs, and wheelchair accessible spaces.
Yeah, and you can see on the diagram there, the chairs are going to be right in the middle. And then the benches to the side, and then, of course, the accessible spaces throughout.
What was the seating capacity, Dr. Zamora, you have a very good memory. What was the seating capacity of the previous baseball stadium?
Right around there, Dr.
Around the same?
1168 to about 1,200, right under 1,200.
Okay. I'm just wondering if we were going to get more seats or not. Well, bottom line, we're concerned, guys.
Did we have that? I mean, because I'm trying to remember that we didn't have the canopies.
I
Maybe
think
that's-
initially, and you can correct me, Mr. Villarreal, initially they were not, but once they started inspecting it, the material was, in the canopies was, what's the word? Corroding also.
Corroded.
Yes, was corroded also. But initially, when we first talked about the project, we had thought that the canopies might not need to be replaced. But the same weathering that was happening with the bleachers was happening with the canopies also.
So we haven't removed that, have we? Have we removed the canopy?
No, the
it's still there.
canopies are still there right now. So then is the recommendation that we send out, that we allow other companies to bid, to give us pricing?
If you're saying that we're in compliance by giving 1 week, I'm surprised, but if you're saying that we are, then I would say that we do, because that'll give us an opportunity to let others, maybe there's some big name companies that are willing to come down and do it, that specialize in this. That would be my take on it. I don't know. Ms. Hernandez, Dr. Zamora, what do you think? But
You're bringing it to the board, August the 31st? So yeah, we have another week. And maybe, see if we can do it separate and move it a little bit faster.
Okay.
We need to look at, some options where we can have the games here.
So I've already spoken with Mr. Garza about this, so let me just ask it in front of everybody here. I know that Mr. Garza and I spoke with Wright Ogden Figueroa, Mr. Figueroa, who were the architects that worked on this. And there was going to be some other communications to see if there could be something done with respect to the canopy, since the other work had already started. And I didn't realize that both are coming in at the same time. So just did anything transpire as a result of that conversation?
No, it didn't, Doc. We did go back and try to find the renditions of drawings from the previous. One of the things we were trying to look at was the type of material, and that's what shared with Mr. Villarreal. This will be not steel, but galvanized steel, which will be one of the reasons why the steel that was used is the reason why it became what it became and rotted out a lot quicker.
Can you get closer to the microphone,
Yes,
Coach?
ma'am.
Because I don't know
Okay.
if everybody's...
One of the concerns and one of the things that we tried to look for was the makeup or the materials that was used prior, and that was one of the questions that he was trying to find out, but we couldn't find that particular answer. For this particular project, one of the recommended things was the steel that was going to be used, not to go with the regular steel, but the galvanized steel that does not rot as easily, as quickly as regular steel.
So the current bleachers or the previous ones were not galvanized steel?
That's correct, Doc.
And the question was, what did the specs say at the time?
We-
And did they install the right steel or not?
Yeah, I wasn't able to find those within our files, Dr. Zamora, so.
But then did the architect have them at all?
And we have not been able to communicate back.
So you didn't
with that.
follow?
Yes, sir. So that's one of the questions that he had, because we do have the existing uprights on the canopies to, kind of note that steel was used, regular steel. And the other question, was it treated, not treated? Was it, primed, not primed, heated or not heated, and all that other questions that he also posted.
So is that information that that architect
Yes, we were trying to find those documents, Dr. Science, in what was done 22 years ago, 2001. And based on the portable where they're at, we just haven't been able to find some of those documents. But
And the architect does not have the documents either?
this was one of the first times the architect had actually was made aware of the conditions or what happened to the demolition of the bleachers.
The concern that we were sharing was that while this damage was identified several years ago, when we could have probably gotten the architects to come into the picture, that was not done. So we waited that long, and now we're in this position. That's why my question in the earlier projects in terms of ensuring that we have documents and warranties and that we keep up with them in case similar things happen.
Yes.
So there was, maybe like yearly inspections in previous years that could have alerted us to the possibility that different materials were used than what was on the specs.
That's good.
But don't we have like because usually when you go in and you make a big project like that, especially like if it's aluminum or galvanized or whatever it is, they give you the specs on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that tells you exactly what kind of a material it is and what kind of maintenance it needs to be done. So we don't do all of that? I mean,
Like Coach Garza said, I mean, that was like 20-some years ago. We couldn't even find the plans for those bleachers. I wasn't aware of the contact with the architect, but I mean, usually when they give us the closeout documents, they do give us maintenance and operations recommendations for whatever it is, whether it's HVAC, canopies or whatever it is.
Okay. The stadium is not, the football stadium is not going through that, is it?
I'm sorry?
I said the football stadium is not experiencing that kind of damage.
Not visibly. I know there's an engineer that I'm trying to hire to do an inspection just to be on the safe side.
Okay.
I'm just going to reiterate, we're depending on you all to guide us correctly. We need your help. We need you to check and recheck and recheck because we're trusting that you've done that when we approve some things. And when it comes to a board meeting, sometimes it's too fast and we don't have all the information. But I know Ms. Hernandez is right. It tells you exactly what kind of material is going to be used. It tells you everything, those specifications. That's why it's really critical that you all have those meetings and you all dissect the information, dissect the plans, and then be upfront with us and tell us it's different from what was on the specs, so that at least we know and we can respond correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions on the baseball and softball complex? Okay, so we'll work on the recommendation, Mr. Villarreal. Thank you.
Good evening. Section 4, or tab 4, on campus relocations. Are you all there?
Rick, can you get closer to the microphone, please?
Is that
Thank
better?
you. Yes. Before you begin, Rick, I want to let our board members know that we are evaluating and looking into this possibility of moving these two campuses that Mr. Villarreal is going to talk about. Based on just the maintenance of the buildings and some other repairs and projects that would have to be done as a result of the state fire inspection that we just went through, The administration, together with the principals, are looking into the possibility of moving these two campuses to the locations that Rick is going to talk about. We have done a walkthrough with administrators, with with some of the principals. We have one principal that has been out. So we have been doing walkthroughs with them to talk about all the different possibilities. But we did want to let you know that we're evaluating this and going through these discussions for the possibility of moving the two buildings, the two campuses, excuse me.
From the buildings, you are correct, Dr. Science. So we laid out the map. The first map is a copy of the Hope Academy second floor map on tab 4. And as Dr. Science mentioned, Mr. Quiroz, the principal, has been out for health reasons, so we've yet to meet with him. So we'd ask, before I present, a little bit of time so that we can evaluate and further study the movement of Hope. So the first option in Hope would be to move the campus to the Hope building at the D Hall, which is upstairs on the second floor, which is on your tab there, on your page, on the first page of the tab. D Hall would be on the northwest side of the building, which is on the left, on the lower left of your building. You see the classrooms that are numbered 1 through 8 would be where both middle school and high school students would be housed. A bus loading area would be located on the northwest side there at the bottom left. Student entrance would be on the west side, to include possibly the northwest side, right where you see bus, the word bus. There's also another entrance there with a stairwell going up. Other gym use and lunches would be coordinated with the campus administration, which we've already met and discussed as well. Office spaces would be a little tight, but if you look at room number 8, there's office space just in front, which is labeled as D237. That would be some office space. There's two other office spaces to the east of room 8 and to the west of room 8. They're right by the STC labs. Now there's 2 labs there that we're also looking into, seeing if we can move those labs to make more room for our Hope Academy students. Timeline. Okay, so a timeline for this move would be 3 to 4 weeks upon getting approval for IT, furniture, teachers, materials, and equipment. Currently at Hope there are 21 students, and an average of about, with 8 classrooms, there's going to be between 5 and 8 students. An officer from Hope would assist at the Jimmy Carter D Hall, if approved, upstairs. And of course, the officer from the Jimmy Carter Early College building would also assist. This would be one of the options to get our Hope building, or Hope staff and students, relocated. We did talk to student services as well about the nature of housing and locating them together. There would be some challenges, but it could be done.
Rick, your voice is, I don't know if you're
I'm
just
sorry?
not close to the microphone, but we can't really hear you.
There would be some challenges, however, to be to this, being that it's in the second floor and that they are the nature of our students that would be relocated as well. But I know campus administration is on both ends, because I have spoken with the principal at Hope. They are up for the challenge, and they are willing to work with the plan, and they understand about what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is get efficiency out of our buildings that have space, that have rooms, available rooms. Also, I believe Mr. Villarreal talked a little bit about, well, not in this one, but prior to with the HVAC, and we're looking at saving close to $3.8 million of HVAC and electrical renovations to both the old JFK and the Memorial Building. Electricity-wise, we are also, I don't have the exact number of how much we save on both of those buildings, but we would better track electricity. We would not use electricity, which is another cost-saving measure at the current Hope and the current West Academy buildings. When it comes to the fire marshal, both of these buildings where our students are housed need a lot of improvements, and it's going to cost us a lot of money. I just talked about 3.8, and I know our students are worth more than 3.8 million, but that is the recommendation on the Hope, is to keep them safe. The current buildings like Jimmy Carter and the Lincoln Building are up to par and are in compliance when it comes to the local and state fire marshal as well. And any questions at this point in time in reference to this building?
The only question I had was are these enough classrooms, these 8 classrooms, they're enough for
Okay.
what are being used right now at Hope?
Dr. Benavides, and excuse me, for our core teachers, yes,
Yes?
we do have.
Yeah,
Two-
they have
two
the
math,
PE
two-
teacher, which is not, but of course that would be in the gym. And I think there was one elective teacher
there's
that
an-
would,
Float.
A credit recovery teacher and a special ed teacher, which we can
we
work
probably
with.
still need to look for a classroom for the special ed teacher, Mr. Villarreal, but yes, the core area teachers do. We would look for the special ed teacher, but we would have one roving teacher.
Possibly one roaming teacher, correct.
It would, the bus loading areas and the student entrance areas that Mr. Villarreal spoke of would be separate from the other students that are in that building. And so
Correct.
they would not meet in the morning. We would work out, the principals would work out a schedule for the gym,
Correct.
which is the one, a common area, and they would work out a schedule for the cafeteria also.
Yes, cafeteria schedule. Hope would be eating at 11:30, Jimmy Carter at 12:20, and CCC at 1.
Yes, I do want to say that Mr. Quiroz, the principal, has not walked the area yet. And so he might have some other recommendations, some other requests. But like I said, he's not been on campus yet. As soon as he is, he will walk the building and give us any other recommendations that he might have.
Correct.
Mr. Villarreal, where's the entrance from the bus loading area
Okay,
to
so
that second floor? Is that going to be staircase?
is that going to be what? I'm sorry?
Stairs?
The stairs.
Stairs.
Or we
correct.
have elevators?
Yes, between rooms 4 and 6 is a stairwell that takes the kids up, and between rooms 2 and 3.
No, but I know that that's in terms of getting from the first floor, because this is the second floor.
Correct.
So they're coming in from the outside?
Yes, from the bus loading area.
No, but I mean, there's just an external staircase up? or
There
what do
is
they have?
an external between rooms 4 and 6, and an internal stairwell between rooms 2 and 3. And there's also an elevator there. Right by room 3 is an elevator, and right by room 2 is going to be your indoor stairwell.
So they've got what they need there.
And the
And
restrooms,
you did address the other question I had with lunch and breakfast, so they'll be served in their classrooms or what?
correct, just like they do
Both.
currently. And then,
Well, we do recognize that the buildings where they're at are very, very old.
I mean, that the buildings where they are, you're right. I mean, this is a whole lot better situation.
They're
Just
very,
for us to
yes.
take care of whatever challenges are there. Because they'll need to have their security like they do now.
correct.
Yes.
We've talked with Chief as well, and we did several walkthroughs last week with Chief, 3 in fact, with all principals. Even Dr. Science did 2 walkthroughs with us there, and we have a good plan. It's gonna be something new, but we're still gonna be in the best interest of our kids.
And our students will be in a much more conducive learning environment. And then, of course, Rick mentioned the the future HVAC costs, and we're talking about in the next year or two, for those 2 buildings, would be about 3.2 or 3.8?
3.8, close to $4 million.
That's how much we would need to invest in the next year or two on HVAC in those buildings.
Here's a recommendation. Before we do anything related to HVAC with those 2 older buildings, is determine what we're going to do with those buildings.
Yes, and that's why we want to move kids out, so that we don't have to invest that money in those buildings
Right, but
on the HVAC.
I'm going beyond to say, also, let's see what are we going to do with those buildings? Are they staying up?
Yes.
Just to get an HVAC system of $2.5 million? Or do we do something different?
Exactly.
Yes, we'll need to
Exactly.
make that decision
Yeah.
with both of them.
That's another agenda item in our
But it's
future
facilities, right? It's
facilities meeting, yes,
So
yes.
we'll with your recommendation, we'll continue to look at the plan for this Hope building when Mr. Quiroz gets back, and we'll lay out a more updated plan for you all.
The only recommendation I would have is when you do the recommendation in our agenda item, if you will include the cost, and also include what the fire marshal report recommendations that they made, so that we have supporting evidence to show why this is the better option.
Okay. All right.
Based on Mr. conversation with Mr. Loya and looking at the reports, the fire marshal did not inspect these 2 buildings, but we know that everything that we need to do to the other buildings, we would need to do to these buildings. But we don't have a fire marshal inspection per se for these 2 buildings. We just know what the codes are and what we would need to do to these buildings.
That is correct.
And you could have an approximate cost,
Yes.
of what it would cost to do that.
And we'll also bring like cost savings,
Mhm.
and a cost savings amount.
Yes.
So this is just a question, FYI for me. But on the northwest side of Carter, first floor, that used to be like a Korean technology type, has some classrooms. What's being housed there now? Because I'm just thinking if we would
Currently,
house them there,
that,
would just
yes, there
would
is
be a
some
good place.
space. There is some space there, Dr. Zamora, but one of the things that that currently have, and they're not using it all, is the Care Academy, which is our special needs over 21 kids that have met high school requirements, but we keep them and we work with them on job-related certifications. So that's what part of that space is being used. There are still some available classrooms.
And I was just thinking that'll be first floor, the buses are right there, getting on and off the bus would be so much.
We'll walk that area again. Also, I know we considered it, but we thought maybe not so close to that program, but we'll look at it again and see.
I'm just looking at the nature well.
Yes.
Now the other population of students and see what would be the best setting.
What would be the best? And see, there's, I think one of the things that we talked about is that there's no other entrance except the ones that the care kids use.
Correct.
But we'll study it some more.
And I was just asking, because that just on my mind, that there's.
That's good. That's a good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Do we
input.
want to talk about now West Academy?
Yes, and so if you flip to the next page, got a map from the Lincoln Building, and this is on the northwest side, the northwest wings, which are your T Hall, which is directly on the north side, which are rooms 11 through 19, and then over here on the southwest side of the map, are rooms 1 through 10 is the F Hall, excuse me. So findings there, the good to this, the very good to this actually, is that West Academy has already been housed there 2 years ago when we had the HVAC renovation over at Dr. Science right during COVID. We moved our students over to make room for the Dr. Science kids over here. So they're familiar with that area. Administration and staff are familiar with that area. There are 19 available rooms, as you can see. And again, as I mentioned, in the F hall, you have 10 nice big rooms. And in the T hall, you have 11 through 19. So 19 total rooms there. There's plenty of storage and office areas for our staff and to bring in our students and work counsel with them one-to-one if needed. Currently, there's 224 students at La Jolla West Academy, with an average of about 11 students right now per classroom. And then again, we spoke with Rolando and AJ on
Is somebody adjusting that?
I don't know, but
Ms. Cantu,
we spoke with campus administrations when we did our walkthrough as well, and our breakfast and lunch would also be accommodating for our students. All three campuses, because we have Academy Health Science and then we have STEM as well. Lunch and breakfast would be accommodated with a 30-minute lunch. Gym, like we would do at the Jimmy Carter building, would also be coordinated between administrators. And we did speak with all administrators, and they are willing to work the AM and PM use of gym amicably. And bus loading area for this area would be, for this part of the building, would be on the northwest side. And then just above the bus loading area, because here we do have students that do drive, would be a student parking on the upper left-hand corner. And then just below the bus loading area would be our teacher parking. And then, of course, our student entrance. And where it says bus loading area, the buses would actually drop off the students down here where it says student entrance. All right?
Where is that, Rick?
That's on the bottom left
where
corner,
the gym is.
right between rooms 1 and 4. That's going to be the main entrance.
oh, I see. So bus loading is, unloading is going to be actually on this side, not where
On
it
this
says bus
side,
loading.
correct.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
We have the main student entrance. Some students do enter through between rooms 8 and 5 where it says storage area. There's a hall there and a door that was used by Ms. Sanchez 2 years ago as well. But right now, this is where the plan.
So that's not where kids would come in through?
Correct,
Kids would come in,
over here.
So Ms. Sanchez was there after Norma?
Yes,
Because Norma was there.
we
for-
would,
Correct.
yeah, while because
would-
Dr. Science Middle School kids were at the West Building while we worked on the HVAC
correct.
at Dr. Science Middle School.
But you're talking about the area that Norma Garcia
Yes.
used?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the area where we have, for that particular building, that was a performing arts area.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
That's the name. F hall
That's
is
the
Fine
F
Arts
hallway.
Hall. And the T hall is for technology. So they're very big rooms. There's a lot of,
You have, yeah.
they're very well made for, designed for those, and we can make good use of them. Currently, only one room is being used in this, out of all this space. And we do leave our air conditioner on, not at 76 or 78 like we normally do, but we have to leave the air on like at 83, 80, 85 within those temperatures to keep the building from, getting mold and mildew and from falling. So this is another, again, the same reason. It's safer, it's up to par with our fire, our safety, our intercom system. All those things are up to par. And in these other buildings, we're still having to invest money. We could save money there. And then again, we made a we feel that we would make good use of these rooms.
I think that's a very good location.
Yeah, it is.
Well, and it's utilizing, like you said, utilizing all the space.
Yes, ma'am. And I'd like to thank Dr. Science and Student Services, and everybody was involved in this endeavor, our police department and as well. So it wasn't just, it was all of us. Any other recommendations?
So do some of those rooms have wooden floors?
Yes,
The dance hall.
Not
Yes.
not the ones that we're using.
Okay.
Not
Well,
any of
that's why I
these,
was- that's where I was
because,
going,
yeah,
because
because
they do have
those
the
rooms
benches.
are like huge rooms
Yeah, I
with
can
the
see
wooden
them.
floors.
Number 3.
But it's not these right here. Am I correct,
I
Rick?
believe
It's not,
room 3 might have, I think it does have, but 1 and 2 don't.
but
But
these
I
are
think-
not the really big dance rooms.
I believe room 3
There's
is,
only one.
Oh, okay.
Dr.
Yeah.
Zamora is probably right. He is. I
3.
think he's right on that one. Timeline would be 3 to 4 weeks as well. And then we would have our Jimmy Carter officer and also our La Jolla West officer as well to go.
Yeah, they had it really nice set up when Norma was there, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was really
Yes.
nice, yes.
Any other questions or recommendations? I know you,
Now, for this particular facility or building here and this group of students, I know that for the ones that go to Hope, we have, they're coming in from the 3 high schools, right?
correct.
And from other schools for transportation purposes. How are we going to be handling them? Buses are, how are they being, will they be scheduled?
Yes, we'll do we have zoning.
Well, the bus routes and schedule will continue
Yeah,
as it is.
correct.
It's just a different drop-off.
Just taking them to a same process, different building.
But they
Good
currently
question.
do have bus assigned to them.
Okay.
Their scheduling and routes.
So the student pickup is the same, they just drop them off at a different building.
Correct.
Yes.
And they're next to each other, so that's good.
That might even help us with some routes. We'll look into it.
All right, if there aren't any other questions or recommendations, thank you. And we'll come back on do a little more exploring at the Jimmy Carter Early College for our Hope kids.
Yes.
All right,
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Under other, I had just asked Dr. Sines that at our next facilities meeting or board meeting, it depends if it's done, the study of the portables. And what was your request, Dr. Zamora?
Let's take a look at JFK,
Oh, the building
Hope-
usage of,
the Hope Building and where we
oh,
have the
yeah.
West Academy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
usage of buildings, yeah. Anything else from Dr. Zamora or Ms. Hernandez, Dr. Sines?
No, thank you, Dr. Benavides.
So now just to clarify, what will we do with the bleachers? Are we going to go out again, or-
Yeah, we gave them the
Okay.
go-ahead to repost tomorrow and
So
send it
can-
out.
So does that need to go to the board as a whole, or can we just make it here to say redo it?
Oh, we can say it here, to go out, to get more bids?
Right.
Well, I'm not sure, Mr. Villarreal, we might need to get clarification from Sylvia, but the board might need to act on the bid received, on the one that we
Yeah,
received.
because we have 3 here.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's something that the
Well-
other board members might say, well, we really need to do it now.
Well, yes, but because we did receive a bid, the board needs to act on that bid that we
Correct.
received.
That's what I'm trying
And
to
so,
get to.
yes, so we might need to schedule a meeting to do that.
Or
So that we can
Or we can
continue.
just say we're going to rebid it, and that's why I want to
But
ask for that
yes.
clarification.
Yes.
If we're not satisfied with just getting one bid, can we just go ahead and reopen it?
Can we reopen it without having to go to the board, or do we need to
So
go
that
to
it
the
can
board?
be done right away rather than
Yes.
waiting until the next board
We
meeting?
can reopen it without going to the board, but the current bid that we did solicit, you all might need to vote on that bid I know it's two different things, but
Right.
yes, we.
Just so that
yeah.
we get it done
Yes,
right.
Correct.
Yes.
Find out and
If we
remember
need to
that.
schedule a meeting to do that, to act on the current bid, we'll do that. We'll ask, and then we'll schedule a meeting to do that so it doesn't delay us
Okay.
any more than what we already are.
The other thing maybe that we need to do is to see where we're going to find the monies that we're already saying
Yes, we
we're
will
over
do
budget.
that.
Yes, we need to, on the facilities committee, we need to look at,
The
finance,
finance.
to see what we're going to cut to be able to afford that. Or for them to bring some recommendations.
Yes. Thank you.
Anything else? No? If not, we will adjourn this work session at 7:14 PM.
Right.
I'm sorry, I said work session, facilities meeting at 7:14.